There is a version of events where this channel, where my work is important. Regardless of whether it is, I have to continue doing it just in case that it is. But in the version of events where it is important and recognized, then at that point, these videos in my journal, for instance, will be useful. And I've often imagined for my journal, well, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. And although I've often imagined having a future audience, it's unreadable unless I'm somebody. And when I imagine that my ideas, not that I'm somebody, that the ideas are important, that the ideas that have come here, so anyway, I don't know how I started the sentence, but how I'm gonna finish this thought here before getting into what I want to talk about in the video is, so I imagined my journal would be edited. There would be different versions of it, organized differently, tagged differently. Of course, all the entries can't be included in any published. It'd have to be volumes, which would be ridiculous. And then I was thinking, for this video, I was going to start by telling you a story. And I was imagining you watching that and going, it's a 10-minute video. This story cannot possibly take 10 minutes. And wondering, yeah, but what is this video about? What am I about to commit to? And I don't want to put that pressure on myself to remember to follow, the format of how to do a good video or how to do any kind of communication, which is to tell people what they're going to hear about, tell them, and then tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Throw in a hook, all that stuff. Plus, for a video, there's all the editing and all that stuff. I do enjoy some editing, but ever since taking some of the pressure off of the video being like this thing with all these professional graphics and ever since I took the pressure off myself for creating that, and I guess remembered that, or not remembered, but sort of synced up with the other voice that's always been saying, this channel is really meant for posterity. It's meant as a resource. If ever I'm onto something now, yeah, it'd be cool to see how I got there. And if my ideas are important, well, here's a great place to put them. So that's why I'm gonna go ahead and still start with the story. So I'm walking with Neo over there. Neo's not actually quite with me. I'm walking up a hill. He's walking next to it. Very small hill, and I hear somebody yell out, "Dog!" And I see this guy on his bike who is near the path where Neo was. I look for Neo. Neo's maybe, 10 meters away. So I say hello to the guy. The guy says, "Huh?" I say hello. He says, "Oh, hi. Watch out with your dog. Be careful about your dog." I looked at my dog. I looked at him. I said, "Oh, why?" He said, he came up to me. I said, "Uh-huh." Which I'm all pretty proud of. I didn't react. This is what the video is going to be about, by the way. People's relationships to dogs. I hate it. So we'll get there. And so he says, he came up to me. I said, "Yeah." And I was thinking about saying, yeah, you're another organism in the space. He wants to check you out. He wanted to just sniff you. But I didn't get a chance. He said, I'm one of the people who's afraid of dogs. Now, maybe he was still on his whole, you're the problem. There are people out here who are legitimately afraid of dogs and you need to respect that. But I heard it as that he was saying, hey, I am afraid of dogs. And so it scared me. Oh, that's what he said. When I said, yeah. So he had said, your dog came up to me. I said, okay. He said, it scared me. I said, oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Well, I didn't say both. I said, excusez-moi. I said, oh, excuse me. He said, I'm one of the people who's afraid of dogs. I asked him whether he had ever been bitten. He said, yep. I said, yeah. But he could see Neo was totally within my verbal control. Because, now that Neo noticed we're having a conversation, this is not just any organism in the space. An organism interacting with us. Again, I'll say, in French, they say master. In English, I am used to saying owner, but I don't like master. I don't like master in English, but maître, I do like, and I like it better than owner. I like to think that I have a role superior to him, that he is to follow my command and I'm not to follow his, and he is to ask nothing of me except for food, water, and exercise, and I am to ask everything from him. But owner is too much. Anyway, and so I said that, yeah, my girlfriend, he goes, oh yeah, she's kind of scared of dogs. I go, yeah. And she once said to me that, that it's legitimate because dogs are unpredictable. I said, why? I said to him, and I told her, I think, humans are more unpredictable. I hope he didn't take that as you think you should be worried about my dog? Anyway, I thought it went really well. Just went really well. I just love that he said, I'm afraid of dogs. he changed it from watch out where your dog is or something. Obviously, is it important as a pet owner to be a responsible maître and know where he is? Yes, of course. But that wasn't a case where I actually sort of made notorious. I knew he was very close, and I knew that there was not going to be a bad interaction. I have no idea even what the guy did. You know, he could have maybe kicked his foot out. Yeah! That's the worst thing about people who are afraid of dogs. They're the ones who get themselves in trouble. When we were in Lisbon, this is a story about... See, now I slapped that voice of trying to make this presentation presentable. So here's your introduction. When we were in Lisbon, Angela and I, there's this amazing place. I love this place. There are these ruins. It's surrounded by the water. There are these shacks, and there are just these dogs free. And there's about 5 or 6 of them. And I wanted to show the space to Angela, and I was scared, not of the dogs, but of me having to break up something between Neo and the dogs. So it was a very exciting situation, a moment. So we approached this area, which is like this, at the end of this little peninsula thing, the territory of the dogs. And Neo loves to run up to a dog. He did not run up to these 4 or 5 or 6 barking dogs. And so we walk in there. Neo's got his tail up like this, but he's sniffing. There's some moments where he and maybe another big dog are kind of still with each other. And Angela, she started walking back. But it went well, because no, dogs are not that unpredictable. My dog is particularly unpredictable. And I still felt confident enough that would go okay. He had met them the night before. We were walking along the beach, and they came to us. So left their territory. We're barking. I didn't even know they were barking at us. Then eventually they come, and they're all sniffing each other, and I'm nervous. And then they follow me all the way back to my vehicle. I'm hoping I'm showing you photos or videos now. Dogs are not that unpredictable. Yes, if you're afraid of dogs, I can very easily predict that you will be doing a lot of looking at it in the eyes, this dog that you don't know, especially if it's a big dog. You will be apprehensive and scared, and it will degage a smell that I can predict will get my dog to go, huh? Well, what's going on? Normally, is there a battle coming? Why are you so afraid? Why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking me right in the eyes like that? Oh, now you're avoiding me. You've made yourself very interesting. The person decides to move away from the dog while they're looking the dog in the eyes, putting themselves on the dog's radar, slapping that prey instinct. And I'm happy that he evolved that way. Of course he evolved to. If there's a person looking at his maître and at him, is acting nervous, and is like coming towards us, and then like avoids us, this is someone that I need to check out. Obviously. What happens is then a dog who just wants to check you out still he comes over, and then you make sudden movements, or you have this stupid instinct to show him that you're friendly, and so then you reach and you start petting him on the head, which is really an act of domination. So you don't want to do that with a big dog, because he'll be like, ooh, sorry, hold on, you're standing up there, putting your hand here. So my dog is going to come up, put his paws on your chest, and say, what's up? Go on, put your hand there. Put your hands on me, I'll put my hands on you. Fuck out of here. Are you battle ready? So, dogs have voices, humans have voices. They have voices. We are voices. About a month ago, I met this guy. Neo goes and poops next to his vehicle. I move such that Neo is now in sight. I see his pooping. See, there's a man standing next to his vehicle. Oh, dang. That's unfortunate. I'm also nervous because it's a tall man, and I thought there were dogs in this vehicle from the night before, but I was mistaken. So I'm calculating. I mean, I'm just, receiving information, letting my voices process. And he looks at my dog, and then he turns and he looks at me. Oh, I don't know which happened first, but I think he says, "That's not cool, man." I think I said, "Oh, hey, sorry." "Oh, hey, sorry." He said, "Hey, I'm making breakfast here. That's not cool, man." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's not cool, man." And I go, Sorry, what's not cool? Anyway, you can watch that video for that interaction. But what's important is that he posted about me, and that's why I had made the video. Well, I was gonna make a video anyway. He posted about me on his Instagram. This wannabe Rasta with this medallion and a joint in his mouth to protect his ego. And he talked about people acting like dogs are humans. And I think that actually really kind of epitomizes what we've been talking about the past couple of months. We think that, we think that this world is created for us, or that it was filled for us, the flora and the fauna, the buds and the beasts. So we think that all this space is our space. When people freak out about my dog, you know, and if it bothers me enough, I like to say, you know, oh, maybe you should stay in the city. Maybe you should stay in human-only areas. I'm not responsible for your fear of dogs. I do want to be somewhat considerate of it, but not really. As much as I would want to be, as a homosexual, considerate of your homophobia. Okay, so you just told me you're homophobic. I'm sorry that you walked into this bathroom stall. Darren, let's get dressed. But in knowing that it's wrong and illegitimate. I don't want to cause you pain for no reason, but you're causing yourself pain as well, and I want you to recognize that. So one excuse that's used is people who didn't grow up with dogs. Oh, I just didn't grow up with dogs, so I'm just not used to them. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's like you really put yourself in a class apart. You're a human. You have an ego, a self, a judge, this rational soul, and this dog is just a body, just a beast. And you know, the animals are things for the zoo, and it's just, it's so fucked. Anyway, so there's this excuse of like, and I think it feels legitimate. I would feel bad if that was true for me, and maybe I'm really upsetting some people. People almost say it like, oh no, yeah, I didn't grow up with dogs, so that sort of makes my discomfort legitimate. What if we said this? And maybe it's not the same thing, because dogs aren't people, right? But I didn't grow up with black people, so just excuse me. It's just, I'm not, I don't know. Am I tripping? Am I over here acting like I'm humble, saying, you know, I don't know, maybe. And you're like, no, not at all. Stop acting like it's at all a possibility. But it's what my voices are saying right now. So they'll say that they didn't grow up with dogs. Another excuse would be that they saw someone get bitten by a dog, or that they were bitten by a dog. Okay, I've been punched by a human. I've been punched by a human, and I guess maybe the teeth are scarier than that fist. I fell to the ground, blacked out a second. He was an African guy. I'm not gonna avoid African guys. I know, it's tempting. Of course we have racist voices. But I'm not gonna avoid African guys. I'm not gonna avoid dogs. Alright, so here's my story talks. Maybe you're thinking, oh, would you grow up on a fucking dog farm? No. My mother was allergic to dogs. I had a fascination with dogs. I have a memory of a kid I grew, actually 1 year of school together, but and he had this gigantic dog, St. Bernard or whatever it started with a Lamborghini, whatever. It wasn't a Labrador. It was like whatever. It was this gigantic dog. I loved playing with it. I wanted a dog so badly, but my mom was allergic. I had very little experience with dogs. That's the only thing that I had as a kid. Probably only played with that dog like 5 times. When I was living in LA, one night I had smoked with some friends. It's nighttime, living in South Central, walking back to my place. I think I'm walking with my friend, and they're just, they're dogs just loose in the street. I thought it was amazing. So I followed a couple. I find myself in this alleyway, and there are more dogs, and they're starting to encircle me. And I wish weed had the effect on me now that it did that night. It was one of the first times I had smoked, like, in a good way. And these dogs were after me. They had encircled me. They were starting to close the circle over here. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna go back the way that I came. I didn't stop there though. When I would walk home from work or to work, it was about a mile walk, a mile and a half. Every dog that was barking at me, I was talking to and stuff. Which is kind of shitty because it's just upsetting the dog for no reason. I know that now, but I wasn't a lot of talking. Like, if the dog was barking a lot, I was not one of those people who was like, oh, this dog is barking at me, I'm going to, for no reason, talk to it and try to soothe it and, like, become friends with it just so that I can then walk away. No. I could have been a person like that. I was not. But if a dog was willing to just hang out for a second, I would hang out. In fact, there's this one house. I don't know how. I'm such a crazy person. There's this one house that had these 3 dogs, like a Labrador, a golden Labrador, like a smaller black dog, and like a little tiny dog. And so I would play with them through the fence because they were super nice. This feels like a dream. I would say at least 2 times. I hopped the fence, middle of the afternoon. I hopped the fence and played in these people's backyard. For me, it was the dog's backyard. I had never seen the people. The dogs were just always there in the backyard, and I would go there and I would just hang out. Not for a long time, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Of course, I was afraid of getting caught, but when I came to Paris, there were these 2 dogs. Well, one night I wanted to chaperone these 2 ladies. They were getting with 2 guys, and they were friends of mine, and so I went back to the guy's place. So I hung out with the 2 dogs. 2 big dogs, jumping on me. I loved it. And if you know, maybe this isn't totally pointless, these experiences that I'm explaining, because maybe you can try to live them with me and experience them the way that I experience them. And if you're somebody who is afraid of dogs, who is uncomfortable with dogs, and if I can convince you that is not a legitimate, like, that's not okay, that you should revoice yourself, then maybe these stories can you give dogs a chance. I mean, they're scratching me. These dogs, they were these big dogs. I just loved it. It was one of my favorite nights ever. And then about a month later, I'm vacationing with one of those young women, and there are these 2 homeless guys arguing. Both of them have dogs. 2 dogs on one side, 3 dogs on the other. Another homeless guy with his wife. And so I saw it, and for some reason I wasn't going to interfere. I was rolling a cigarette. But my friend, who knew me well enough, she goes, she saw me looking, she goes, "Do you want to do something?" I was like, yes, thank you, fuck, yes. So I go over there, we form a little triangle, me and the 2 belligerents, interlocutors, and then one of them slaps the other. So now I step in, I don't do anything, minding my own business. Some people don't like when people get into free fire. Didn't really understand that back then, but still, I guess I was just playing it cool. So I was super cool. I was just rolling my cigarette, standing between these 2 guys arguing. And one of their dogs, boom, bites me in the leg, in the thigh. So I stopped rolling my cigarette, didn't move, looked at the dog. He's going, ah. It's not like digging in. I don't even think I really bled. When I pressed really hard for the photo, I was able to squeeze a drop of blood out. When I look at the guy, he looks at me, looks at his dog, pulls him off. He says, "Oh, sorry, man." I was like, "No big deal." And I felt like such a hero. Had 2 little holes in my jeans, barely broke the skin. And then very excited about getting Neo. Finally moving out of an apartment into a tent in the woods. I'm be able to get dogs. I can get a big dog, the biggest dog. And Neo is the first dog that I met, in my correspondences trying to find a dog online with people who are giving up their dogs for free. Because I walked right up to his former Mets to shake his hand. He goes, "Ah!" Mets pulls him back. He didn't touch me or anything. And Mets goes, "Yeah, sorry, blah, blah, blah." No worries. I'm thrilled. And there's at one point when I want to pet him, the guy goes, "Oh, no. You see how he's curling his lip? Wait. He's not ready for you to come over there and touch him." Okay. And I learned a lot about dogs. Because one time in Montpellier, I saw a dog with a homeless person, learned a very valuable lesson. "Hey, let me pet you." And then my sister and dad were like, "You're an idiot." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was very upset that day because they really told me off. And I was like, "Fuck you guys. Usually everything goes fine with dogs." But I learned something incredible. And Neo taught me, if anything, to be a little bit afraid of dogs. Yeah, that's it. That's all my experience with dogs. And I wish we lived in a world where animals were everywhere. Obviously, some animals, we don't want the constant threat of death, right? There are some animals that, if we didn't evolve with them, then no, they shouldn't be roaming free. It's a very easy distinction. Roaming free in human areas, which is not the entire planet, as some people pretend. But, look who we are. Like, don't come here. Don't come here if you're terrified of dogs and think that they need to be on a leash. This is clearly not a human area. Look at the flora. The only reason I don't leave my dog out everywhere is because, to be honest with you, he can be a little bit, you know. But that's just, I know him very well. So if someone walks up to the van, then yes, there might be a problem. I wish we lived in a world where the fauna and the flora were freer, especially domesticated fauna. So for voice theory, not what all this means. That voice was incorrect. It was looking for a transition, thought that was a good one. For voice theory, dogs are voices, fewer interactions, fewer meta representations, so fewer voices processing a number of other voices and influencing a number of other potentially influencing a number of other voices, other combinations of voices. But it's the same system. We are animals on Earth. We are mammals. So it's the same basic thing. So we have, just like they do, a lot of bad voices. We act like dogs are unpredictable because they are just these neurons just firing, and humans are these reasonable souls. At the beginning of my relationship with Angela, when I would tell her stories about people, my interactions with people and how they reacted to me, she would always say, "Oh, that's so strange." When I would tell her about experiments, "Oh, that's so weird." She hasn't said that for months and months and months. I had told her, "Why are you saying it's weird? Humans are not these reasonable, predictable characters that you act like. They do weird things. And because there are so many more voices, so many more connections, so many more layers to the voices, the weirder things are even weirder than they are with dogs. Humans are much less predictable with dogs than dogs. Contrary to my point, but also to sort of support my point, one of my favorite books that got me into understanding all this, I read this almost 14 years ago, Predictably Irrational. Okay? All right, so if you want to say humans are predictable, yes, but say that we are predictably irrational. Humans do weird things. Things that, when I say weird, it's not because it doesn't conform to what the majority of people do. It's because it doesn't conform to what a reasonable being would do. And it's really easy to not notice. Really, really, really easy. If you don't have a voice reacting, questioning, I don't just mean that you want to question, but do you actually have a voice? So if somebody says to you, 1 + 1 = 3, that there's a voice going, huh? Because a lot of the times, the number of times I've seen two people say different things, agree with each other, and then like one of them has said something where he has sort of precluded a certain justification. And the other person who agrees with his conclusion gives this justification, and the first person's like, yeah, exactly. And what you're doing, so one thing is that we just don't notice, that we don't question. And the second thing is what you just did, but I think you just did, which is that you rationalize it. And this is what I see every time I explain an experiment, is that most people that I explain psych experiments to and all these odd behaviors of humans, these systematic errors that we make systemically, either they'll say that's so weird, so they'll accept the experiment, they'll accept the behavior of the people, but they won't accept that it applies to them, or it applies to humans in general. Wow, that is so weird. Or maybe they'll say, yeah, wow, humans can be weird. But, they were probably all having an off day. And we're weird on our off days. Sometimes we're not. Or you just rationalize it. And you say, oh, no. That is a reasonable response. And I always have to, really go through the method. Okay, I'm exaggerating because almost none of the experiments I tell about have I actually read the original articles, actually. So I definitely don't then have to go into detail about the methodologies, because if that were the case, I haven't been able to do it. But I do have to give much more detail about the method. Okay, now you're saying, of course, the person listening to you is asking questions. They're trying to understand better. They're being, critical. Eris, you want them to just take it at face value? What happened to empiricism and reason, the skepticism and all that? I hear you. Except you're just doing it again. Because really, when I explain an experiment, I do give enough information for anybody who is open to the experiment to see, oh, okay, look at what that experiment observed about humans. But then people will say things, it's a scientific study, and then I'll have someone respond, maybe when she said this, let's say that the scientist, she said X to these people, and it's No credit to me. I'm thinking of a specific experiment where she's a woman. She says X to X group, and she says Y to Y group. And although X and Y are the same, X and Y group respond differently. So then what the person, when I tell this experiment, the person will say, oh, well, yes, you probably said Y in a nicer way. So when that happened, I said, oh, you think because she's a woman that she doesn't know how to conduct research. Okay. She doesn't know how to control for that variable, even though it's pretty central to the whole idea of the experiment. Gotcha. Okay. But of course, the person who said that, the super feminist who had said that, wasn't thinking that. She just had this voice that had to rationalize this weird behavior. It's just incomprehensible. It's why it's 2023 and I have to explain this. It's why we can talk about AIs being self-aware, but we aren't self-aware ourselves. It's why we've had notions like skepticism and reason for thousands of years, and here's where we are. Nowhere. The Dark Ages. We can talk... anyway, I'm not gonna... Oh yeah, we were talking about animals, weren't we? Did I get off topic? What was I just talking about like 20 seconds ago? Or a minute ago? Voices. We're not these special things. It's not weird. Oh, right. So people usually react to experiments by either just kind of shrugging it off and saying it's weird, or by justifying the weird behavior. It's their resolution to the cognitive dissonance. Sometimes I explain it, jump into it. So the one thing is, this experiment suggests that humans are irrational. Humans are rational. How do I resolve this cognitive dissonance? That question slaps the voice that says, oh, actually, they were being rational there. And we talked about that in my 10-hour compilation of videos. And I had talked about this TV scene.
You're not curious?
No, I used to be a curious person, but I learned quickly that some things are better left alone.
What's something you used to be curious about?
Where a guy says, he used to wonder why people did things that were opposed to their best interest.
Why people behave in opposition to their best interest.
And then he figured out the answer.
People, they need risk in their lives to feel something different.
Oh, so they're interested in feeling something different? Ah, okay. So they do things opposed to their best interest because of an interest? Ah, okay, so rational. It's cool that we were able to figure that out, actually. So we're working together. This isn't just a viewing thing. We really are working together. We are working together. Because if I weren't talking to you, I wouldn't have the same vocal activity that I do now. And I might not have delivered that thing, whatever I just said that I'm happy with now. Don't remember what it was. I'm very cold. I want to go to bed. So yeah, humans are animals and dogs are animals. That's it. We're not gonna do a thing based on intelligence, because then what are we gonna do about ants? And also, just because we're more intelligent doesn't mean we have more of a right to something, because that makes no sense. I had a tent in the woods, wasn't bothering anyone, and got evicted. And I was the smartest one in a 20-kilometer radius. Not true, but probably the smartest one in the woods at any given time, including people going for a walk on average. So no, we can't say that it's because we're more intelligent that for some reason I don't know. I think that if you are afraid of dogs, I think that if you're homophobic, I think that if you are racist, I think that you need to expose yourself to those things and people, and I think you need to apologize every once in a while. And I have had people do that. They'll like jump when they see my dog come out of nowhere, and then they'll go, "Oh, sorry, no, I just didn't expect it," you know. And if you're thinking, "Oh, what the fuck?" I don't. Nobody's still watching who would be thinking this, but somebody might be thinking, "Dog is allowed to just come up to me," and no, you can't just run up to a dog. That's just the way that it works, because that's how we evolved. We evolved where if you didn't know a dog, then you shouldn't be going to the area where that dog is, and the dog's job is to protect from people he doesn't know. That is its voice map. That is its genome. Those are its voices too. Aw. Let me see. Neil hasn't noticed yet. And that guy's over there. Ooh, watch out for your dog. No, of course his dog. I don't even know what he could. Right, so obviously it is in its deepest of nature to approach humans that it doesn't know. That is why it exists. That is in fact also how it exists. Wolves approaching, no, not true. No, not true. They just hung around. They wouldn't probably walk right up to the person. Anyway, yeah, so that's his job. He's gonna come sniff you. That's how it is. I hate when I'm walking and let's say I'm not with Neo and some dog comes and jumps on me or comes and is sniffing me and the master's like, leave him alone, leave him alone, leave him alone. I also have done that. I don't hate the maître for doing that, but I hate that we live in that world. Dogs are meant to fucking share this space with us. That is how they exist. So I know I'm interrupting you now, but I'm getting excited for you actually. Dumb dog. So, I mean, it's like people are just okay confining these beasts to leashes and people put dogs in cages. I did a research thing and I needed a place to stay. So I stayed at this guy's place in Houston. He had this big house and he kept the dog bigger than Neo. Well, that's another fun experience I had with dogs. Skinnier, but bigger. And he kept him in a cage. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Do you realize how crazy that is? Look, I'm not going to say it's what we're doing to dogs is like slavery. But I do want to put that vibe out there. His voices evolved to be our best friend. To give up their lives for us. Do anything for us. And they were living it up. They had all the planes to run. They were constantly outside. They could be by the fire or they could, they were sleeping in the same conditions pretty much as men. They were fucking living it up. And we act like we're not reasonable. Of course, it's natural. I mean, and this is how in any time any ridiculous thing has been considered normal. Well, obviously, these weren't evil people. These weren't stupid people. Well, they were just as evil and stupid as we are. They just didn't get it. And now we know, oh, wait, slavery is terrible. People are people? I don't know, this gladiator competition, these death competition things. We probably shouldn't. I think there should be death competitions, but it has to be 100% voluntary. But then, of course, if somebody's in financial, blah, blah. So then it would have to be in a more egalitarian system as well. A system that better takes care of its people so that nobody does it because they have to. And now, where are dogs at? They're in cages. A dog roaming the streets, taken and put in a cage and killed. If a dog is roaming a neighborhood, literally what it evolved to do, it is taken into a cage and then killed. Rahi, right? We don't have him anymore. I don't know what happened to him. I didn't think there was much of a chance of him getting killed since he was so young and handsome and healthy. But he went for a walk and then he ended up in the pound. And I would have had to pay 80 euros to get him back, which is obviously not a big deal if there's any point in bringing him back. But he would have just the next day. He had broken every chain, leash, collar. He had figured out a way to do everything. He had even broken a tooth trying to bite through a chain. And I felt terrible. I had to keep, if you're living in the woods, I also had the police walking their dogs. I did have to keep them tied up, but they were on long things, so they were, but yeah, I would have loved to have been able to let Rahi free. But he kept ending up at the vet. Hi, someone found your dog, blah, 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 oh la la. And then plus, there are cars. Cars exist now. He didn't evolve at a time with cars. He doesn't understand that. So I did have to keep him tied up. Well, it was, anyway, it doesn't matter. So I was like, I obviously cannot take care of him, so. He could have just been taken care of by the community or something. But no. And you think it's like normal. There are people that like are upset to see dogs free. Like, oh, they're such nice, like, they are nice toys for some people, that's fine, but keep that toy within a meter of you or keep that toy inside your home. Anyway, that's what I think about the human-dog relationship. I think that humans have fucked themselves. Not to mention the breeds that exist now. There are no more real dogs. Now there are literally toy breeds. But maybe those toy breeds have evolved to like be okay with that. I'll defend this purse. So then, okay, no harm, no foul. All right, so anyway, those are my radical thoughts on, I think dogs should be roaming free. Of course, well, it's not really possible because because dogs haven't evolved. Well then no, they would just need to be trained. That's it. So a dog can have a permit. So it has to take a couple classes, whatever, and then it is allowed to roam free. Even in this new world where it's not going to know everyone that enters what it might think is its territory. So you can revoice some dogs, because there are lots of dogs that roam neighborhoods, and maybe they'll bark if there's someone very unknown or something, but that's it. So they're perfectly capable of being revoiced on that, of learning that, okay, the people I meet at birth are not the people I spend my lifetime with, and anybody else is the enemy. So then if the dog has earned that permit or whatever, then it should be able to roam free. What do you think about that? Regardless of whether or not that's a great idea, the first thing that I want us to think about is, how do you feel about that idea? Because if it's not a good idea, it would only be for logistical reasons. But for dogs and humans to continue to live like they lived in the past, except humans aren't living like they lived, they're moving, right? So that, yes, dogs have to be trained to be able to be okay with strangers. But to continue to live like that instead of just, I hate that he's just there. I would love for him to go be just walking around the area. So how do you feel about that idea? And if you feel like it's a ridiculous idea, then I think you've misunderstood. I think you've misunderstood what you are. And it's not from my video, because from my video you would have understood what you are. I think we kind of just evolved I think we are pre-programmed to think that we are special. It's not that anybody taught you or whatever, that we see ourselves presented like that on TV as separate from, or it's not that, we have verbal language and we don't understand anybody else's. It's not those things. I think that, I don't know why though, so maybe not, but I have a hunch, I have a voice saying that we have an innate sense of entitlement and specialness. And if you think that sharing all of our space with the thing that evolved to live with us and help us, if you think that that's ridiculous, I wonder whether, innate or not, there might be some truth to what I said about the entitlement and specialness. And you'll need to recognize that if you're going to realize that you are also an animal, you're also a set of voices, a pretty shit set of voices, and there's not some capacity. There's a capacity maybe for imagination that sets us apart from them. But there's not just this like binary reason thing. Also because reason is not a possible system. It's not a possible system. You can only learn. You can only think better. It is not possible for a system to be designed with the correct proportions, with the correct weights attributed to each interpretive mechanism. Evaluator. It's not possible for a system to be created with perfectly calibrated, correctly attributed, interpretive and evaluative mechanisms for all possible conditions. No. It is possible if the environment is known, and then we write the code for that environment, and we know that environment, and we write the organism's code for that environment, then yes, the organism could be perfectly reasonable, know exactly what to do with every piece of information and how to follow it to its conclusion and how to act in accordance with its objectives. And also, it'll have objectives that are coherent, unlike humans. We have a lot of conflicting objectives. We have conflicting best interest, as we saw in the scene. Okay, so it is possible for an organism. That is a possibility. However, everything that I said, there are a lot of things in what I just said that do not apply to us. Number one, this environment is not controlled. There are lots of new things that in an individual's life environment, lots of new things. Two, the interpretive and evaluative mechanisms were not chosen, are not perfectly calibrated, and the weights are not correctly attributed according to even the environment that we used to live in, let alone this environment. That would need an intelligent designer, and we don't have one. And then the last thing is that's it. Those are the two reasons why it would be impossible for us to be reasonable. Rewind that. I think that's pretty important. Okay. So yeah. So we are not reasonable. Dogs are not reasonable. We are capable of much more violence and imagination and anticipation and nuance, and although their sense of smell is certainly more nuanced, but we certainly have a lot of capacities that they don't, and they have some that we don't. We are superior to them in the sense that they're the ones in the cages, so we are better adapted to the environment and better adapt. It was our decision to take our relationship this far with them. To oppress them this much. So we, in the sense that we are a very competitive species, they have failed to adapt to the fact that we're kind of assholes. If they are at all suffering, then they would need to adapt and start living on their own, or finding the right people or something. And then you have the whole war, Planet of the Dogs type thing. Recent versions. Oh, so anything you want to talk about in the last minute? Yeah, so just stop being such an entitled, reasonable, divine, God-created soul bullshitting jerk off. Just humans. That is our natural environment, not this. So, I didn't really understand this until I lived in the woods, of course. But the woods are not a treat. It's not an amusement park. That is supposed to be... I'm not against heating and Wi-Fi. In fact, I'm very cold right now, and I wish I had Wi-Fi to publish this right now. But I just think it's good to maintain some perspective, and it's good to develop. Of course it's good to progress. Yes, okay. Are you progressing if you're scared of the outside? Are you progressing if you're scared of the thing you're supposed to be progressing alongside? I'm just trying to optimize how we make progress. That's all. Yeah. Now we keep dogs inside unless they have a permit. But you might have been thinking, of course we innately think that we are entitled. Of course we are innately entitled. And think that this is supposed to be like 2 seconds. We are innately entitled and think that we're special. That's how we became the planet-destroying winners that we are today. That's how the U.S. is what it is. Manifest destiny, bro. Of course, the country that has a culture that believes that it is entitled to basically everything, and what's the other? And that it is special. Of course, it's the one that's running the fucking world. Natural selection. So yeah, we're entitled. We think we're special. So it makes it so hard to break the illusion that no, we're just more complicated mind messes. And yeah, we're capable of things. Yes, we're capable of some really awful things. We're capable of slavery. We're capable of nuclear weapons. We're capable of not moving our ass on this climate thing. We're capable of genocide. We're capable of classism, and we're capable of people dying of hunger while other people brag about buying $500 shoes and nobody gets upset. And people are like, wow, nice shoes. We're capable of thinking that, oh wow, yeah, I'm 1 billion times better than you. Of course, I worked for this. I earned this. If I have $1 billion and you have 1, it's because I'm 1 billion times more capable. No, you're not. No, there's not that much variation in humans. I'm not even twice as smart as anybody watching this. I'm not even twice as capable at pretty much anything. Isn't there research that came out recently that said anybody that's 6 feet or taller, anybody that's 2 meters or higher, or 183 or higher, if they spent time, they could be in the NBA. If they started, there's not that much variation in our species. Practice is what makes a lot of difference. And as far as the millions or the thousands, it's opportunity, it's luck. It's luck in some of the voices that you were given, but also luck in some of the circumstances in which you got selected. But we're capable of lying to ourselves and thinking, oh, I deserve to be a millionaire, or I deserve to, this. And hey, if you can't feed yourself, I have that voice too. By the way, this is actually really clicking for me now, because that's so true, right? Because I would think that what I am however more competent or adapted or whatever, like my either financial status or just, whatever, is proportionate to theirs. But no, because there are some people who are living really, really shit lives. A lot of people. 80% maybe of the world. I mean, really shit compared to mine. I can't actually. It's not possible for there to be that much genetic variation that I am that much better than them. I mean, it's not like I was out here thinking, oh wow, I'm better than all the refugees, all the poor people, whatever. But yes, there was a voice that, that says, otherwise everything would, if we didn't have that voice, everything would burn down. If we weren't like, wait a minute, this makes no sense that you have 100 times my purchasing power when we're equally moral, when we're, when you're like 5% smarter than me, when you're like, no, you're like 10% less moral, you're like 5% less smart, and, yeah, see, that was my voice. Again, assuming that the person who is in a better situation is more competent. I was just trying to make the point that it isn't much more competent, but maybe they're not even necessarily more competent. Wow. So we're capable of really fooling ourselves about some things. I try to catch myself. I try to catch errors, and this is a pretty big one. And this one got by for a long time. I can't be, unless, okay, so we're going to exclude the retarded and the addicted. If we exclude the severely mentally handicapped and the addicted from the equation, then yeah, no, there's no way that that the difference between our life situations could possibly have been earned. And by the way, earned, I do include with just that I got lucky that I'm not someone who is as easily addicted, or that I wasn't exposed to those things. Yeah, shit, luck of the draw. Right. So by having the brain I have, yeah, there's just no way that my brain is that much healthier than that person's, that I'm contributing that much more to society. Right. And we're able to act like jobs contribute to society. Here are the important jobs: teacher, philosopher, researcher, doctor, journalist, lawyer, or maybe that can be handled by the philosopher. Speaking of philosophers, Julian just called me. Those are the important jobs. Maybe I'm forgetting some, but, and then maintenance and service. Well, I guess I should just list everything then, right? Construction people. Okay. Everything manual is important. And then for the things that are not manual, it's the stuff that I said. Oh, artists. There you go. So if you go sit in an office and write reports for a profit-making company, definitely don't deserve whatever life you're living compared to. Look, maybe it's not about deserve. But if it's not about deserve, then fuck you, don't talk to me. If my dog wants to come sniff you, he's going to do that, because there is no such thing as that you deserve some space from him or whatever. On the off chance that I was able to edit out breaks in that last bit, and so it's less than an hour, so that I showed you a little clip of a guy who was with a little white and brown dog. I saw him again today, and he was looking friendly when we made eye contact. So I opened the door, let Neo out. So we started talking, me and the guy. And Neo was absolutely fine. His dog was a little bit scared of Neo, but, the guy said that, but no problem. So sometimes the dog was like, rah, rah, to Neo, and then Neo was like, okay, chill, okay. And I was very pleased. The guy was even petting Neo. Everything was going really well. And then I see Neo. His attention perks. There's this other guy walking in the area, walking sort of towards us, or past us, and Neo starts barking, and the guy starts freaking out. Whoa, get your dog. Everybody's yelling. The old guy here, he's saying, oh no, don't do that, dog. Oh, get your dog. I'm going, Neo, stop, and the guy's going, blah, blah. I did not run over there. I went over there, and I soothed Neo. I apologized to the guy. I said, I'm sorry. And then he said, you have to be able to control your dog. That is the law. And I was like, you're absolutely right. And I brought Neo inside. And then I went back outside to continue talking to the old guy that I was talking to, and I say to him, probably only because he was scared. As I'm speaking to the guy, we're walking towards each other, and he's saying actually the same thing. He's saying, it's only because the guy was scared. The guy, as soon as he like started to get near the dog, he's looking at the dog. He's going like that. He's avoiding the dog, and so the guy was like, you know, some people are just dumb. I just don't know how to. Don't act suspicious around a dog. You know, and what do you want me to do? I know he's not gonna bite you. Just you chill out. Like, yeah, humans have to fucking learn how to also exist responsibly in this world. It's not a human world in which dogs and dog owners, if you want to put dogs in the human world, then you have to make sure they are always under your control and never upset me in any way. Then you have the right to bring your dog into this world. Fuck off. You also have to learn what it is like to be in the world. You also have to adapt to the world. I know that we as humans don't have those voices because that's why we are winners, because we were like, okay, now we're going to make this world adapt to us. But it's not right. It isn't real. If you want to go walk around in the fucking woods, learn that you might encounter other species and know what to do when you do. Fuck. And like, what about if it was a kid? If the kid just like runs up and yeah, there's some people are so awful about kids. Learn to control your kids. That is really awful. I get that voice. I get that instinct. My lips are so black. Oh no, I'm going to die soon. I understand that instinct. It is wrong. Just because something is bothering you does not mean it should not exist. You might be wrong to be bothered. There. We'll leave it at that. So that applies to people feeding their kids in public. That actually, and so I'm wrong about this as well. I'm wrong. I have that voice that it also applies to people playing music in public. We act like yeah, cities are going to be fucking noisy. People are talking. People have phone calls on the train, on the bus. People have fun on the bus. In public spaces, they talk. Sometimes they want to listen to music. And I don't know why they're not putting in headphones, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal to us. I mean, like, what are you trying so hard to concentrate on? And also, the reason you're having trouble concentrating is also because it bothers you. It could just be something that you hear. It could just be part of the environment. Oh, this person wants to play music on their shitty phone. Can't hear the music, can't really appreciate it or anything, doesn't sound good at all, but I can definitely hear it. So what? Actually. So what? If you're on the fucking metro, I'm sure there's all kinds of noises that you can hear. If you're on the bus, if you're driving or something, there's all kinds of noises that you hear that are not pleasant, but you tolerate them. But then when someone's playing music, often because they're a lower class or they're a minority, well, we say, no, that's not a sound I'm going to tolerate. I deserve to have silence beyond the extreme loud noise of the train. If I'm on a plane, I deserve that there's no baby crying. I think that is I'm exaggerating. This is still one of the worst human things in the air, is complaints about crying babies on airplanes. Ugh, what an ugly world when you really think about it. Again, this is actually really just occurring to me. I mean, I've never really complained, but I've never had an issue with people complaining. And maybe I have complained. I don't think so. Maybe. But what a horror. We went from, so a baby evolved to cry in order to signal that it needs attention, right? And it's a horrible, horrible sound for us because that's how it motivates us to take care of it. So a reasonable being would, in response to an infant needing something, a reasonable being would address the needs of an infant, okay? We are not reasonable. So basically, to imitate reason, when an infant needs something, it goes, ah! Then in our brains, that sounds terrible, which slaps the motivation voice to deal with it quickly. And typically, for our ancestors, this baby is surrounded by people who loved it, by people who cared for its well-being, by people who had a vested interest in its survival and well-being, and by people who loved it. And so when that baby cried, well, it takes a village, right? So everybody would get involved. That's why a baby's crying is loud. Make sure that if it ever needs something, someone's gonna hear it and be able to do something and feel obliged to do something. Now we've got planes where you hear a baby that you don't give a shit about crying. It's a horrible sound. You don't particularly feel motivation. You may have a very small, quiet voice that wants to do something, but basically that just gets turned into a frustration. And it's just like everybody on this plane wants the mother to have this miracle cure, rather than everybody on the plane going, oh, what can we do now? Of course, there are going to be some grandmas, some older women who are going to come over, you know, what can I do? But the young people and even the, like, you know, the professional parents, maybe I'm just thinking about it in movies, but look, I understand that a crying baby is annoying. It is supposed to be annoying. It's supposed to be annoying so that you help. If you can't help, because fortunately now we share very intimate spaces with people that we don't know and don't care about, unfortunately. And because of that, it's just a horrible sound that doesn't, and what can you do about it? What are you gonna go up, introduce yourself and say, hey, how can I help you with your baby? But at least what we can do is be like, no, it's not a problem. The crying is not a problem. You do not need to shush your baby up. Let us know if you need anything. If you run out of something, you want to ask the plane if we have anything, no problem. We all here for the need fulfillment of that baby. That wasn't my point though. Nope, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah, so Neo had a sort of a bad reaction. Look, and that's what the guy said. If you're going like this, of course he's gonna start barking at you. That's normal. That's what the old guy said to me. I was like, oh yeah, no shit, yeah. Shut the fuck up, it's in the law. If my dog sees someone suspicious, I want them to signal that to me and to let the suspicious person know that they should chill the fuck out. That's what's in my natural law. But I did just leave it with the apologies. But I was also ready if he took it just a step farther. But yeah, he was just yelling. Why do you think that is what you're supposed to do? How are you in that situation? A dog is barking at you, and you start doing this. And you start yelling and going like this. The dog is barking. It's not even like lunging at you. And you don't notice that it's every time that you move that the dog starts coming closer to you? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But just learn. Just learn. Okay? By the way, if I didn't finish my story about the homeless people thing, everyone cooled down, nobody was interested in fighting evermore after a little bite, and I felt no anger about the dog or about the guy. When I went and got myself tested, the doctor said, you're an idiot. There's no way that dog has rabies if it's in France. Okay, fine. True story. God did not create this world and all its beasts for you, humans. The world just happened. The beast just happened. We, as one of the more complicated beasts, just happened. Okay?